Imagine traveling back more than 2,000 years. You could walk through the markets of ancient Rome. You would find olives, grapes, wheat, figs, and countless vegetables. But there is one vegetable you would never see: broccoli. Not because people hadn't discovered it, because it simply didn't exist.
The broccoli we know today is not a wild plant. It is a human invention, carefully shaped over centuries through one of history's oldest agricultural experiments. Its story begins along the rocky coastline of the Mediterranean. Long before farms covered Europe, a tough, wild plant known today as Brassica oleracea grew naturally on windswept sea cliffs. It survived salty air, poor limestone soil, and relentless coastal winds thanks to its thick, waxy leaves that prevented water loss. This humble wild cabbage would eventually become one of the most remarkable plants humans have ever transformed. Scientists believe the domestication process began sometime around the 6th century BC.
Generation after generation, farmers noticed that some wild cabbages were just a little different. Some produced thicker stems. Some had larger flower buds. Some tasted sweeter. Others were less bitter. Without knowing anything about genetics or DNA, they repeatedly saved seeds from the best plants and replanted them year after year. Over hundreds of years, these tiny choices slowly reshaped the species. The result was something nature had never produced on its own: broccoli.
Interestingly, broccoli belongs to the exact same species as cabbage, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, and kohlrabi. They're all Brassica oleracea. The only difference is what humans decided to improve. Kale was selected for larger leaves, cabbage for tightly packed leaf buds, Brussels sprouts for side shoots, kohlrabi for its swollen stem, cauliflower for dense unopened flower clusters, and broccoli for enormous green flower buds supported by thick, tender stems. In other words, broccoli is what happens when humans spend centuries breeding a plant for one very specific feature. The part we eat isn't actually a vegetable in the traditional sense. It's thousands of tiny flower buds. If left alone, every one of those green buds would eventually bloom into bright yellow flowers. As the flowers open, the stems become woody, the texture changes, and the flavor turns noticeably more bitter. That's why broccoli must be harvested before it ever gets the chance to bloom.
Ancient Roman writers may have been among the first people to describe broccoli's ancestors. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote that after cabbage was harvested, it produced tender new shoots called cymi. The famous Roman cookbook author Apicius also mentioned these young shoots in his recipes. Modern historians believe these cymi were probably not modern broccoli, but they may have been very close relatives, perhaps something similar to today's sprouting broccoli. No surviving evidence proves that ancient Romans grew the large-headed broccoli we buy in supermarkets today, but these descriptions strongly suggest they were already selecting cabbages for their edible flower shoots nearly 2,000 years ago.
Romans loved vegetables from the cabbage family. They boiled them, steamed them, cooked them with olive oil, herbs, black pepper, cheese, and even wine. The cookbook De Re Coquinaria contains numerous recipes using brassica vegetables, showing they were already an important part of Roman cuisine. Yet the broccoli of ancient Rome looked nothing like today's version. Wild cabbage produced only small, scattered flower shoots. Modern broccoli forms one massive, compact crown with a thick, edible stem. That dramatic transformation didn't happen in a laboratory. It happened slowly through centuries of selective breeding.
Among all broccoli varieties, one became the world's favorite: calabrese broccoli.
Named after the Calabria region of southern Italy, this variety was refined over many generations before becoming the dominant commercial broccoli during the 19th and 20th centuries. Its mild sweetness, thick stems, and large uniform heads made it ideal for farming, transportation, and supermarkets. Today, when most people think of broccoli, they're actually thinking of calabrese. But it isn't the only type. Sprouting broccoli is considered by many historians to be much closer to broccoli's ancient ancestors. Instead of producing one giant head, it grows dozens of smaller shoots, sometimes 20, sometimes more than 100. It comes in green, purple, and deep violet varieties, with purple sprouting broccoli being especially popular in Britain because it tolerates cold weather remarkably well. Its striking purple color comes from anthocyanins, the same natural pigments found in blueberries and red cabbage. Then there's Romanesco, perhaps the most extraordinary member of the broccoli family. At first glance, it almost doesn't look real. Every cone is made of smaller cones. Each smaller cone is built from even tinier cones. The same pattern repeats over and over again. This mesmerizing design is one of nature's most famous examples of fractal geometry. Although Romanesco has been cultivated around Rome for centuries, today it fascinates mathematicians almost as much as chefs.
Of course, broccoli never spread across the world on its own. Plants don't migrate. People carry them. For centuries, Italian merchants transported seeds, farming knowledge, and crops throughout Europe. During the Renaissance, agricultural exchange between Italy and France flourished. A popular story claims Catherine de' Medici introduced broccoli to France after marrying the French king in 1533. While historians have found no direct evidence for this claim, broccoli almost certainly reached France during this period through expanding trade between the two countries.
Eventually, it crossed the English Channel. The English initially called it Italian asparagus, even though the two plants aren't closely related. For centuries, broccoli remained a curiosity, grown mainly in aristocratic gardens, botanical collections, and experimental farms. Britain's colder climate, combined with the popularity of cabbage and the limited availability of seeds, kept broccoli from becoming a common vegetable. Its biggest journey, however, was still ahead. When Italian immigrants arrived in North America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they brought something precious with them: broccoli seeds. At first, they grew broccoli only in backyard gardens and small family farms, preserving a taste of home in their new country. Then, California changed everything. Its Mediterranean climate, with mild winters, dry summers, and abundant sunshine, proved almost perfect for broccoli cultivation. In 1922, the Dorigo Brothers Company began shipping fresh broccoli from California to major cities across the United States using refrigerated rail cars. For the first time, broccoli became a nationwide commercial crop rather than a regional specialty enjoyed mainly by Italian immigrants. From there, its popularity exploded. Asia encountered broccoli much later, not during the Roman Empire, not during the Middle Ages, but largely during the 20th century. International seed companies, agricultural research institutes, and global trade introduced broccoli across the continent. Japan expanded production after World War II. India began cultivating it in cooler regions. China dramatically increased production in the late 20th century and eventually became one of the world's largest broccoli producers.
Today, broccoli is eaten on nearly every continent. Yet every single broccoli head in the world traces its ancestry back to a wild cabbage clinging to rocky Mediterranean cliffs thousands of years ago. The next time you see broccoli on your plate, remember, you're not just looking at a vegetable.
you're looking at more than 2,000 years of human selection, patience, and agricultural ingenuity, compressed into a single green crown.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome videos.